Today we're going to be using cards from the Moonology Manifestation Oracle deck and the Moonchild Tarot deck. The first thing that I'm seeing is a bunch of pages and papers being shuffled against each other. It doesn't look like we're filling them out. It's less about the documentation or tracking and more the paper pushing itself. Getting the affairs in order, getting our to-do list together and updated and refreshed, and making sure that we understand what's next. 2 to 3 days or 2/3? That's basically the same thing. Okay, so a few days in the week, we are in this headspace. It's like there's a bunch of stacks of paper. Everything is just piling up around us. Risk of overwhelm, obviously, but as long as you are categorizing what to tackle, in what order, knowing what could be delegated, knowing what could be timestamped. Basically, I don't have to actually do this right now, but you have to look at everything to make the determination. So you look at everything and then categorize. This could be done in a month, maybe a month and a half. Doesn't seem like anything is pushed out farther than that period of time. And then it's what has to be done this week? What has to be done this day? What could be given to somebody else? What could be signed off on? Because maybe you're at basically the end stages, but you just have to get it out the door, give it to somebody else to put the bow on it and finalize. The last quarter moon in Aquarius reflect on your priorities. LOL. So we had this card last week. This is card number 1 last week. I remember because we were coming up with a list. And now this is different because it's not always a to-do list. There was no explicit mention of it being a priority list, but they are priorities. We are prioritizing the documentation, the papers, the things to do, to read, to understand, to research as well. But yeah, okay. So it seems like it's not a totally hard turn from last week because we have thematic overlap here. When we were figuring out what our priorities were last week, that's going to directly inform what we're doing, what we're spending our time on. We're going to know, is this a good use of my time or not? And that will help us with delegating. That will help us with just saying, you know what, this is good enough. I can't go over this 30 more times. Let's get this out the door. Okay. So we're spending a chunk of our week doing that. And then does it really just continue? No, the categorizing part is the 2 to 3 days of the week. And then what are we doing for the rest of it? Getting down to business. So tackling whatever we've decided we need to work on this week. And then also I'm just seeing like we're putting headphones on, we're like playing music. So how can we make it a more enjoyable experience, a less stale experience of just doing the things that we have to do? This doesn't mean we're jumping around. We're not trying to get distracted. We are still trying to get these things done because these are, as we have previously stated, a priority. Things that are necessary to do. But we can, it's like liven it up a little bit, just make it a little bit more interesting. And yeah, it's like setting the tone. So depending on what you are listening to, you could be really strategic about it. Certain types of papers, documents, to-dos, and things that you're working on, you can pick music that fits that vibe or that counteracts it in some way. So if you're doing something that's going to be particularly dry, then maybe have some more upbeat music. And to try to keep you motivated, or so you can try to, time your actions or do things like to the music, something like that. So you can get in sync. You can, in a like kind of artificial way, get yourself into more of a flow state by having the guardrails, the support, the crutches, the things to lean on so that you don't I just keep getting over and over again that we don't want to get distracted. So it seems like that kind of mental flightiness is potentially on the docket this week. How do we stabilize that? How do we make sure we can take things one step at a time, that it's methodical, that it will really allow us to steadily push forward and get the things done that we need to? We need to get these things done. So let's set ourselves up for success. And using a tool like this would be really supportive. All right, card number 2. Upside down. King of Swords. So this is succinct language. This is person of few words, clarity of mind. So having the two of these together, one, they're both air energies. So that is an aside. We know what's important. We're figuring it out. We're tackling it. And then we're going in there with precision. Understanding what's in front of us, how to approach it, leaning on our mind. We need this mental energy to be applied, to be focused, to be channeled, directed at what we need to tackle. Also, because it's swords, it could be if we're needing to write, supportive with that as well, having that clarity. The succinctness is what keeps coming up. So we don't have to go on and on and on. Let's remember a priority is our time. And so if we can be a little bit shorter with our speech, with our writing, with our language, we can get to more on the list by just clarifying what exactly we're trying to say, what we're trying to do, and again, valuing our time as a currency. We got a lot of stuff to do, and it's just about focus. So last quarter moon in Aquarius, reflect on your priorities. We're categorizing. We're figuring out, I got to do this. I got to do that. Let's do this now. Let's do that later. Let's get that off my plate. Aquarius is about innovation and improvement. So let's approach it in a little bit of a quirkier way. Let's put some music on. Let's set the scene to complement, to support, to amplify whatever it is that we're doing so we can keep going, because this is, Saturn ruled. We have to keep going, steady pressure to get this done. And this is complemented by our King of Swords, clarity of mind, language, speech, writing. Let's be succinct with our words. It'll help us get going a little bit if we go on and on and on. How are we going to tackle this list? How are we going to get through what we need to? We don't want to belabor the point. It's important, so we got to get it done, but we also can't spend forever on it. So there has to be a certain limit, and this will help us to have that discernment so that we can see what we need to do or not, and then just move it along. So getting into the analysis here, looking at the astro weather, I paused and I pulled this list together. So on Monday, we have a lot of different changes. Mars entering Taurus. And then we have Venus in Cancer and the moon in Cancer. These are all evening time, Eastern time. I talked about those 2 ingresses in my May astro weather report, the second one, part 2, where I talked about the ingresses and conjunctions. So you can hear about both of those more in detail. But what I was just talking about, which is we need to steadily focus on what we're doing and apply it. And we need to channel and redirect our energy. That totally makes sense for Mars and Taurus, because Mars wants to do things, wants to get things done, but Taurus needs the steady track to go slowly, which isn't always super compatible with Mars energy, So that's where we can have things feeling a little bit pent up, and we just have to keep leaning on this clarity. What's important? Let's focus on that. Let's focus on that. Let's focus on that. And that's really what we're taming this week, where our attention is going and staying focused, eyes on the prize. For the Venus and Cancer piece, that also could be picking up on a bit of the music part as well. It's a pleasure, it's a comfort, it's finding support, it's maybe a little bit of self-care, figuring out those boundaries and knowing, what do I need to give to other people, because I can't be doing it all myself. So we have that happening. right out the gate at the beginning of the week. Tuesday, moon in Cancer, same. Nothing really has changed there. We're still going to be adjusting to the newness of those ingresses because they're happening later in the day. So it's really kind of very late Monday. Mostly Tuesday is the first full day of those 2 ingresses. Wednesday evening, we have the sun entering Gemini, aka Gemini season. So no wonder we have all this air energy, because it's about communication, thoughts, research. So that will also support what we were talking about here. Our energy, our life force energy, is moving into this communication realm, researching, reading, writing, understanding, talking. So we have that push. And then we have the moon going into Leo. So this is more fixed energy, the play piece as well. So we have all these little markers kind of tucked in the background that could help with, okay, we have to try to keep this light. We have to keep this fun. We have to keep this a little bit playful, because otherwise it's a very, very focused, steadily, slowly moving pressure energy. Thursday, we have, modern ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. So we have some Thursday, Friday activity there. And that's Uranus retrograde post shadow ending. So basically means it's fully direct, except as we've already talked about in previous months, it already started the pre-shadow. It's because it overlapped. So I've talked about that on my blog before. If you want to learn about that, you can look back. It just basically means that the essentially year-long chapter that we were in last year going into this year is officially over. So that door is closed. And this is supportive in us figuring out, well, what are our new priorities now that those things are done, now that we got those things off our plate, those changes off our plate, we can focus on the new things that we need to change. And just, again, it's a tension shift. We're now fully focusing on that without the distraction of the unfinished business. Friday, we have Uranus cazimi in Gemini. Again, air sign. So same area that we keep talking about in the chart. Uranus cazimi day. Again, if you want to hear more about the astrological significance of that, I talk about that in the ingress conjunction video. But yeah, that also feels supportive here. We're trying for progress. We're trying to move the needle. And we have to be prepared for things to come up. Something might surprise us on this day. But we already have dedicated most of the week to clearing things out, doing our prioritizing, getting certain things off of our plate. Great. So then if something does come up, we're a little bit more prepared because we've already got some things done, cast some things out. And so our overwhelming list, all of our big stacks of piles, is already a little bit shorter. Saturday and Sunday, we have the moon in Virgo. Not an air sign, but Mercury ruled, which is overseeing all of this Gemini activity that we have been having throughout this whole week. So we are still getting emphasis on the communication. In this case, it's processes, it's improvement, which does pair with some of the Aquarius energy that we've been talking about. So yeah, overall, moving the needle, clarifying what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. But the big word feels like it's focus. It's what we're focusing on. It's making sure that we are staying focused. That's like the mission of the week. Stay focused. Stay focused. Doesn't matter what's going to pop up emotionally, literally, psychologically. We're focusing. Staying the course, focused on the task. And then that's really going to pay off because we're going to learn some things, of course, but we're also just going to feel so much better because those big piles are going to shrink significantly. So that's something to look forward to. Make sure to watch my May 2026 Astro Weather reports. I mentioned one of them earlier. There are 2. So the first one talks about the moon, specifically the 2 full moons this month, and the Pluto transits. Whereas part 2 talks about all the planetary ingresses, the new moon, and all of the conjunctions, including the cazimis. If you're looking for more astrology for the month ahead, I have my blog post, which has some write-ups on most of the transits that I talk about in the Astro Weather Reports. Those videos are also embedded in that blog, so if you want to experience all of it together, you can just head straight over there. And then I also have my 2026 Life Path calendar. Exciting. I'm starting to work on my 2027 calendar. Going to be making some changes, some adjustments, enhancements. But the 2026 calendar gives you the real-time alerts for any of the astrology that I'm talking about today, as well as little blurbs so you can read about the high level, what to understand, and where to look in your chart so that you can layer on additional interpretation. I have Insight Timer classes upcoming. So I have one, if you're watching this on Monday, tomorrow, Tuesday the 19th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to be offering for 45 to 60 minutes mini psychic reading. So if you would like to receive a reading basically like what we did today, except just for you, I will pick some people from the chat. I usually do a few of them. That's a great opportunity for access to me for a free reading. And otherwise, if you would like a full reading, I do writing questions. Those are several paragraph responses within a 24-hour period. Lots of great insights there. And then if you want a live reading, those have to be booked a couple days out. But those are 60 minutes with cards, without cards, up to you. And then my next class after tomorrow, in case you're like, whoa, I missed that. It's Thursday. My next class on Insight Timer is the June 2026 Astro Weather Report. That's on May 27th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope to see you in class.